Hello everyone, it's Brian, and welcome back to Twilight Struggle, Play the Experts, the game where I play the experts and you tell me how I might have beaten them if I'd only been a little bit smarter. Now today we're starting a new game, and I have got a special treat for you because I am playing Theory. Now you remember we played, or sort of played, Sanct a number of games back. Theory is the other individual who has a whole style of play named after him in popular Twilight Struggle parlance. That's right, Theory style. It's a style. His very name is a weapon. And he has his own site called twilightstrategy.com, or www.twilightstrategy.com, and I certainly urge you to check it out if you aren't already familiar with it, because it is the most comprehensive Twilight Struggle resource available online to my knowledge, and it's all free, completely free. He's got an ebook that's free, and it goes through not only basic general strategies and what the rules kind of are and what they mean, but down to write-ups, like many paragraphs about every single individual card, and it all fits together into a coherent strategy. And so today I am basically, it feels like I'm playing against one of the people who basically taught me how to play this game well. And so that's exciting. It's an honor. As you can see, we're actually fairly closely, we're within the statistical deviant. Plenty of times my rating's lower than that, and I'm sure his is sometimes higher than that. But we may have a really good game here, just based on the rating, or he may just not have played a lot online on this service, et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to find out. We are going to play one of the founding fathers of Twilight Struggle strategy today. So let us get in there. We've got the Soviets. That's right, the Soviets. And let's get in there and see what our hand holds today. All right, so we have got some good cards and some okay cards and nothing really bad. If anything, the worst cards we got are those first two. So independent reds, it's actually good to have it on turn one because it means I can just make sure I don't set up in those parts of Eastern Europe and then use it early on as an event, and it'll just go away and nothing will happen. So that's a good one to mitigate. And then I've got duck and cover, which obviously I got to watch out for, less because of the can't play it at DEFCON 2 thing without exploding, and more because it gives him points. I don't really like to do him that. But on the other hand, there's flexibility if I needed to, like if I managed to use a DEFCON 5, and then at the same time, he only gets 1 point, so there's some options with that. It may be my space shot, or it may come in handy. Now, I play a very victory points centric strategy, so I'm a little bit more on the Sanct end, and so I really will loathe to give him the victory points. I'm going to try to not give him the victory points from that, but we'll see what happens. We've got special relationship, which is not too important since NATO is out. We've got the blockade, so we'll know we'll eventually be blockading him. I'll probably play it next turn, not this turn, just to have the maximum amount of forcing de-Stalinization or decolonization out of his hand. 5-year plan, I would of course like to hold on to, except I can't hold on to both that and blockade, so that'll be a little decisione. De Gaulle, not so great on turn one. I'd rather wait till he plays in France, so I'll probably shuffle that back in. It's also my highest ops card that doesn't come with contingent obligations, and so that's probably going to be my turn one coup. Arab-Israeli war is the only really decent headline, and so we'll probably play that and see if we can snake 2 points and some de-Israelization on him. And then Indo-Pakistan, well, that's good to know. If he gets frisky with Pakistan, then we have a de-frisker kit. So those are our options. And because I'm holding independent reds, I will probably set up my little Italy prod into Austria rather than Yugoslavia, just to not give him any extra stuff. All right, here comes his stuff. Italy, all the usual stuff. He's doing a classic European setup, and then, and he's piling it all into, he's piling his extra guys. The 2-point U.S. handicap guys are going into Iran, and so here's the thing, that is certainly a hallmark of theory-style play, is the idea that this area over here, Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, the Iron Triangle, if you will, is really, really important early game. And if the U.S. can kind of get a foothold over there before the Soviets coup them into cinders, then they're really well positioned in Asia and things can go well. However, a lot of the more recent commentary on the game, which would be mostly in the Sankt school, has been that, when you look at it, well, Italy really is worth a lot. And specifically, it's like Italy qua Italy. It's Italy as the third battleground in Europe for, say, the Soviets or the U.S. if the Soviets don't get it. And that battleground is actually worth a lot of victory points every time it scores, either in creating domination or at the very least, in preventing domination for the bad people. And so if you look at it, it's kind of like, well, that battleground by itself is worth kind of, like 5 points-ish every time Europe scores. And there aren't many other ways you can get one square that's kind of worth nominally 5 victory points repeatedly. So Sank's strategy would be, you'd be, as a U.S., you'd be putting your 4 in there usually. And it depends on your hand. There are some hands where I'd go 3 and 3, and partially it's going to depend on what his headline is, because he might have some, like if he's gonna play Eastern European unrest as his headline and wipe me out of Austria, well, then it's not going to be very attractive for me to coup on action round 1 into Italy, because I won't have a toucher. So even if I don't roll high enough to actually get in, if I just zero it out, I won't have a little prod to go in there with. So, so there's some stuff in it, but certainly these days, now that I've kind of become a slightly more Chinese strategy player, I'm certainly more prone as the U.S. to go 4 and 2. And on the other hand, when I see 3 and 3, the very first thing I think is, okay, so probably coup in Italy on round 1, and depending on, again, my hand. And I have to say that this hand isn't perfect for that. I mean, I would much rather, if I'm going to coup Italy, I'd much rather have a 4 card. So anyway, I would rather have a bigger card. It makes me feel more European about things. But nonetheless, we've got a 3 card, and so I'm starting to think about De Gaulle as a coup. Now, that means duck and cover is certainly not going to be coming out. Like I would have otherwise thought about, maybe duck and cover should come right out of the barrel or something. But that's definitely not happening. And we are going to make the headline we were planning, because it's really the only decent headline I've got. We'll go ahead and see what we can get. All right, he's got containment, so he's going to have big ops, big whammies. And there's nothing we can do about that. He's just going to power his ops all up this turn. And so let us get Charles de Gaulle and send him to Italy for it's like the French go try to knock over the Italians or something. The French communists? I don't know. I always try to make a little narrative for no good reason. Okay, and we rolled just enough to achieve our goal. We have spooged Italy. He has no toucher on Italy. He is wiped out, and because we have Austria, we have a toucher. Now, of course, if he has Truman Doctrine, then he could play it now and wipe us out of Austria, which would probably be a solid play. Well, I don't know, because then I would play back in, and then he would. So I would still win the race, because I think I can snake all the way down into Austria from East Germany. So yeah, that would not be a great play. So let's just see what he does. I think I've won the race to Italy. All right, it's Comic-Con for influence. Okay, so he has decided he's cramming France full of crud, and then he's going into Austria. I'm not sure why that point. I'm gonna ask him why he put 1 point into Austria. My instinct would just be to put a 4th point into France for, future de Gaulle and Suez prevention purposes. I'm not sure. I don't see what Austria gives him. I just don't see it yet. There could be a reason, and I could just not be seeing it. But anyway, he is gone ahead and gotten into France, and certainly he is threatening to, he said, well, if you're going to take Italy, you better go take it, because otherwise I'm coming in. And that's fair. And of course, given that he now sees he's probably losing the 3rd battleground, he figures, well, I better get my 2nd one locked down, right? So that's fine. So we're going to put our little Comic-Con door prizes. We'll put the good 2 into the good countries. And then, I got this awkward independent Reds thing. I would normally be putting them in like Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia or something. But I don't want to give him extra influence. So I think I'm going to go 1 in Austria and 1 in Finland, which is kind of an unusual play. But it's the only way I can collect these points and not have him get extra influence. And obviously, again, those may be eventually wiped out by Truman Doctrine. But I might also get to de-Stalinize them out, So a way that I'm like trying to bank de-Stalinization points for later without giving him extra influence when I inevitably play independent Reds coming up soon, unless that's my space card, depending on the duck and cover situation as things develop. But I now need to get my rear end into Italy, my rear into gear. And my choices are, so I could just do a duck and cover and accept giving him 2 victory points, which I instinctively hate, but it's better than 3 victory points. And it would let me fill to 3, which would kind of put Italy beyond question until brush war comes up in the mid-war. And so that would be pretty good. Or I can just fill with a little plopper 2 card and hope he doesn't come ramming in. See, if I do the duck and cover, it also moves a DEFCON to 3. He wouldn't have any great places to do a coup, so maybe that's okay. But it's hard for me to give up 2 victory points. I mean, it might be a character flaw. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get this independent Red. It's irritating me that he made me put my 2 points where I didn't want to because I have this damn independent Reds. Plus, now that I did that, I think he must have a moral certainty that I'm holding independent Reds. So, nothing good comes of him knowing what I've got. I'm just going to get rid of it, and we'll go ahead. And if he wants to fight me a big grunty ops war in Italy, we'll have a rip with him. Let's just see how it goes. If I end up having to pop the China card in, I'll just have to pop the China card in as my penalty. So the UN for the event. Ooh, for the event. Interesting. Okay, and socialist governments, that's a certainly good card to UN. And in he goes. That's right, because he's got 4 points. He's got the big grunty, the containment. That's what it's called. The grunter, the containment, So, all right. So I'm being punished for not surrendering and giving him the 2 points when I could have. And however, I want to quickly note a thing, because this is a thing, and I'm not sure how it's going to go for us this time, but a new opportunity has arisen because of his play, and I want you to learn to recognize this pattern on particularly turn 1, because that's when it most likely happens. It can happen on turn 2, which is that the U.S. player UN intervened a card, and that means he played 2 cards at once, and now he is scheduled to play every single last card he has left in his hand. He's got 4 cards. He's got 4 plays left, and in my hand is the Blockade card, and so that means if I play the Blockade for the event and he chooses to discard, then he will be short a card and will not have an action round 6. So I could, for example, surprise him on my action round 6, and then he discards and doesn't get one, or I could do it in advance, so then I can get a big, so then he'd know it was coming, but then I could get a big bonking, 2 in a row whatever, where I know I'll get to play and he won't get to respond. I'll get an action round 6 play on him, and then he'll, get nothing. And then I'll get the headline and the action round 1 all in one big grunty thing. So it's a strategic opportunity, or I guess it's a tactical opportunity, to use proper terminology. We're going to have to see how that goes, because we got some crap going down in Italy, and we got some DEF CON. We got some stuff going on. But that isn't so on the one hand, when you're U.S. and you UN intervene something, and I'm not saying he's not completely aware of this risk, but you want to be aware of this risk, that there's that blockade thing, and you could get cheated either of your choice of your action round 6 play or all of your influence in West Germany, which is, another choice you could make. And incidentally, while if I should say, he turns out to only have France and West Germany, and I have Italy and the Eastern Bloc, then in a way, West Germany's a little bit less important, to both him and me. But, it's important. It's still important, and you don't want to. It's kind of sad when the U.S. and your only little grip on Europe is France, which has all those horrible cards arrayed against it. So, Suez and de Gaulle and stuff, none of them have been shuffled out. So there's some stuff. So that's going to be some interesting. So we're going to keep that baby in mind. And I guess, the other thing is when the Soviets and when you see that, you should know that there's that blockade opportunity that could be good. And I'm certainly not going to blockade right now, because I am too busy being penalized for not putting enough ops into here last time. So this time it's going to be China card. It's just going to be China card, because I am not for any amount of love or money going to give up Italy now. So I went ahead with enough to over-control it, because, he does have an ops advantage. And I probably should have seen, thought about that old containment thing and a little harder, and realized that my, I don't have terrible ops, but I don't have great ops. And I certainly don't have a lot concentrated in one card other than the China card. And both of the 3 cards I have these little, ancillary obligations attached to them. So I should have done duck and cover, I suspect. But anyway, China it is. Don't look back now. And he's here with the European scoring card. So that's a point for the good team. Instead of, if he'd gotten that, he would have almost certainly dominated Europe. So it's +1 for us instead of -5 for us. So, I'd say that comes out good. And you could say, okay, so Brian, why didn't you give up 2 points to not have that thing happen, since you're netting, 6 or grossing 6 or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know why. Because I can't stand to do it. All right, so we need to get belatedly into this, what it's called, the Asia Middle East, get into the Iron Triangle here. And so now that Europe is kind of done, the special relationship is especially not important. And so let us just get that baby out there. And we are going to get into Afghanistan, because we have to put some pressure on Pakistan before he can get into safely. See, if we let him get into Afghanistan now, then he's going to be able to safely go to Pakistan, once the DEF CON is more degraded, and we won't be able to get in. This way, he has to think about, am I going to go there, and the DEF CON's 4, and all that horrible stuff. So he'd be risking a coup, plus we're holding the war, so it's a good time to put pressure on him with respect to Pakistan when we're also holding the card. Now, mind you, I would do this even if I wasn't holding the card, because I'd want to kind of intimidate him to make him think I was holding the card. Plus, because the coup thing, DEF CON 4, I can coup into Pakistan if he goes in there, and that's a whole thing. Plus, if he goes in there, we also have the duck and cover coup, which would let us coup it and blast the DEF CON all the way down to 2, and so then he wouldn't get any coup, and he wouldn't get any ops. And so, if we're locking him out of a coup, which is to say locking him out of getting 2 victory points, we're getting 2 victory points at the end, well, then I can see my way clear to, the duck and cover, paying the penalty. I won't say paying the iron price because that's a different and highly technical term in Twilight Struggle. Paying the iron price is what he did in Italy there. Break in control. Okay, so it's another horribly containmentified, plussed up card. He's all jacked up into Pakistan at 3 with the Cambridge 5, and he admits that he has no scoring cards, which is we probably didn't really expect, but now we know for absolutely certain. Okay, so choices we would have. If we said, well, the China card, I could do an ever-smushing coup and, a 5-point coup on it would be pretty strong. I think what's stronger now is to even though we've only got a 1 in 3 chance here, but I think he's kind of forcing us into it. He's calling the bluff, and I think we're going to go into Paki War, which at least leaves him the problem of if we don't win or when we don't win, he'll have to still be, he still has the DEFCON 4 thing to find a way to deal with, and will then, try to find a way to go on from there. But we do have a 1 in 3 chance on a 5 or a 6. We will get Pakistan back and some points to boot. Oh, and it goes through. The Indians come through for us and knock over Pakistan. Well, I'd rather be lucky than good, folks. Always better to be lucky than good. So we net an entirely undeserved giant country plus victory point little kicker. So that was a really good die roll for the Soviets. That'll make up for a lot of bad rolls later, I'll tell you, because it really puts us on the up and up in Asia. We have firewalled him off from maybe not firewall. Well, yeah, it's kind of a firewall. You could get through the firewall, but you have to work at it. So yeah, that went real well. All right, so here he comes back with a CIA card, and he's just going to coup it. He must not have great cards left. I mean, that was a 2-point coup with the containment, but obviously if he had a bigger, cooler card, he must be running a little bit out of gas. And so that brings us to the aforementioned action round 6. So he actually got a pretty decent roll there and knocked us down to 1. So now we're kind of sitting all whatever like. And there's a couple of things we need to think about. Okay, first of all, this would be the time we could blockade, and he'd either lose his next action round or he'd lose everything in West Germany. It's possible, given that he only was even able to coup with his little oneer card, that he might not even have a card to discard, but he hadn't have a space shot, so he might be hoping to space something. I don't know. He could. It could go either way if we blockade him, but we would rob him of his last thing. However, let's look at how that makes the next turn start. It first of all starts at DEFCON 4, and that would mean 2 important things for us. First of all, that he'll probably get a coup, and so we won't get the 2-point, we won't ding him for the 2-point military ops next turn. Secondly, Pakistan's sitting right there, and he could coup that at DEFCON 4. No, we would coup first, so you wouldn't get to coup at DEFCON 4. But if we coup Iran and don't make it, he could move right into Pakistan instead of coupping back. Now I could play Blockade now and then headline duck and cover, taking it to DEFCON 3, and then I coup. And so I'd give him the 2 points, but I'd knock his coup out, and that would be an even exchange. But if the coup doesn't work in Iran, he's completely back into Pakistan, and this beautiful Asia we feel like we've started to arrange for ourselves will come to nothing. So I feel like my safest play, and I'm going to hate doing it because it's going to be the 3-point thing. I feel like it's going to be better to use duck and cover now and take it down to DEFCON 2, give him his 3 points, which I realize I could have avoided at least some of, but this way I'm avoiding some little problems. One is now I can make sure I have a presence in the Middle East, so he doesn't get 3 points off of that if he draws the Middle East card and headlines it. And I jack up Pakistan to where he won't be able to play the China card no matter what. And I draw the DEFCON to 2 so that he's not going to get a coup next turn. Not going to get a battleground coup next turn, and so I can then safely coup him and not have him doing any stuff. So I've protected against the Middle East headline. I've protected against him getting a coup, and I've protected him against him splurging Pakistan with the China card or other things. And I think that is gonna be, it feels safer at least than gambling on a blockade. So let us see what happens here. Tell him we got a consolation prize of 3 victory points. All right, he's got Nasser. Oh boy, and he's spacing it. Wow, he could not even. So if we'd blockaded, he'd have nothing in West Germany now, and he'd still be spacing Nasser. So that's interesting. So Nasser goes to the great beyond, perhaps to return. And we go to turn 2 after a pretty darn lively turn 1. That was pretty exciting, I have to say. And we are holding 2 cards, 2 fairly good cards. Yes, it was a pretty impactful duck and cover. But I hate giving away 3 victory points. And here is the rest of our hand. So we got the Purge. We picked up the Korean War, Warsaw Pact. Vietnam Revolt is a great card for right now, the current situation with Asia yet to be scored and no one even touching Thailand. And Capture Nazi Scientist, ever a fantastic card. We will definitely play that for the event. NORAD is definitely going to be my space shot because, it's just the worst. We don't want to start off a whole NORAD. It could come to nothing if we then quagmire him soon, but we'd rather just not start it, given that that's the only truly bad card in our hand. 5-year plan has got pluses and minuses, but often the pluses are a lot bigger than the minuses if I can manage to throw away an unwanted scorecard with it. So we will see with a 5-year plan, but it's certainly a lot better of a card than NORAD. And so, so a headline, the 2 decent options are Red Scare Purge and Vietnam. Now, keep in mind that Defectors is still out there. And we've gone over this before, that if you're at the top of turn 2 and you're not seeing a card in your hand, you haven't seen it yet, it's about a 50-50 chance that it's in the opponent's hand. So there's a good chance he's going to Defector me. It's a good chance he's got it. And then if he's got it, it's a pretty reasonable chance he's going to Defector me. Although there are better ones. Marshall Plan is probably still better for him as a headline, even or perhaps especially after I've taken Italy to make sure I'm not going to dominate it. So there's some cards that are better for him as headlines that he might play. But given that Vietnam and Red Scare Purge are both good, whereas Vietnam is only a 2-ops card as the played for ops, and the Red Scare is a big 4-ops, I'd rather kind of risk Vietnam up against the Defectors, and because it's just less with 2 good events to play. I'd rather play the one that's least risky of the total amount of ops in my hand, and I'm perfectly happy to go squidge up the central parts of Asia. So let us do those things. Headlining Vietnam Revolt. And he's Marshall planning, yes, especially now. He wants to get in there and keep me out of his stuff, make sure he's not going to get really on the back foot in Europe, keep me from dominating it. And we are into Vietnam and with a little +1 in Asia for the rest of the thing. Now, we don't have to hurry into Asia because he's not touching Thailand, and the DEFCON is 3. So we get to have a big whomping coup in Iran, try to knock him out of there. Almost good enough. A 2 is just almost good enough, but it's not, in fact, good enough. So he is fully in the Middle East. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get some of my homework done, get this played for the event, because I've got a tempo here. Ooh, a big card. NATO for big card. Oh boy. Okay, so that's a great play. And that was like a perfect way to punish me for letting my foot off. I took my foot off the gas, and I did homework because I wanted to save my powder for later in the turn. I felt like, well, Thailand isn't a real hurry because he's not touching it. I'll be able to do that later on, and I just wanted to kind of temporize for a minute and see what he was doing. And the thing is, he punished me for that because so now Thailand is urgent, but he's also done 2 other horrible things. Now, running off into Egypt is totally be expected now that Nasser is spaced and won't be back until at least next turn. Nothing I can do about that, so that's just merely good play. But the horrible thing he's done is he actually poked a poker. He poked a poker into Pakistan. I like that. And so now he's touching India. He's within China carding range of Pakistan itself. And yeah, so that really kind of, I can't solve all these problems with one play. And so I think, given that there's always inherent risk in Pakistan or India, I think of the 3, the one I would most like to hold down is Thailand. So I'm going to, and I get the +1 bonus in here so I can really, get an extra one. So he can now either China card me or he can take India. Nuclear test ban looks like it's going to be India. He's got some good influence. He's got some good ops this turn. All right, he's going to fill up Egypt so that even if I get to Nasser him later, that he'll still have a little prod in it. I'm sure by the end of the turn he's going to be in Libya, so I couldn't coup him out. All right, so we're going to have to use this Korean War card. My plan being to play Blockade on action round 6 and hold 5-year plan again, spacing NORAD. So that leaves me with Korean War for ops. And since he took India, I need to keep him out of Pakistan. And I guess since I got to play this Korean War, you shuffle it back in. I'm going to go ahead and put a little threat into Korea now because now he'll know it's semi-safe to go into Korea for now. A little bit of bookkeeping messaging here, and here he comes with a China card. Okay, he's willing to give it back to prop up his Asia, and I think that's probably correct because he is, he's seeing that he could end up kind of permanently dominate. If I got hold of South Korea, he could get permanently dominated in Asia for the rest of the time, and that might honestly even be worth playing the NORAD card if he had let me do it. So I think he made the right play there, and we know he's going to get Japan. There's certainly no point in me trying to contest a Japan that's at 3. Is the card still? I think the card's still out there even. So we are going to just go with Plan A for NORAD, space that baby. Good. Success. We're in, keeping up in our space race, trying to get those points before he does. And he is Trumaning himself into Japan and eliminating the Asia threat. He was certainly hoping we weren't sitting there holding the Asia card. And alas, in this case, we were not. So he's good. And he's got 3 cards in his hand, so he may not be able to force anything good. But, he's got to come up with a 3 from somewhere. And there's only so many 3s left. So let's just go ahead and roll the dice with Blockade and hope we hit something good. Blockade, we hardly knew you, but you got us a destalinization. All right, so the classic turn ends up paying off, even though he had the China card. He clearly he front end loaded a lot of his ops there, so he didn't have a lot of big ops left, perhaps, or he had a favorable 4 he doesn't want to discard yet to that. All right, so we get our 2 points for military ops, which we managed to arrange that at great cost last turn. So that's it's like 2 of our duck and cover points coming back to us, sort of. All right, and here is the reshuffle, the turn 3 reshuffle, and we're playing with the guy that first educated me that you can you can count the cards in these things. So the cards we see right there, those are the cards he knows we have. He knows we've got Asia scoring. He knows we're on hook for Asia. He knows U.S.-Japan is coming, but big deal. He knows that we are going to have to European unrest ourselves, and he knows that we have defectors, and he now knows that we have a 5-year plan. Now, we know what he's got. He has got the Suez Crisis. He's got decolonization. He's got the Middle East scoring card. He's got Fidel, and he's got the Formosan resolution. So those are some interesting cards coming into this situation. And so your theory homework tonight is, or this week, or whenever, is to analyze this and tell me in comments. Tell us in comments, what would you do if you were the Soviet player? What would you do? What would your headline be? And what would your plan be? Accounting for all of the horrors that could face us or the victories that we could possibly achieve. It's very exciting to be back with you guys, and I will see you next week on Twilight Struggle. Play the experts.